Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to part 2 of this series here. Just to remind everybody, this is going to be a 100% playthrough of this game, Super Koopa RPG, while I offer my commentary on it as the developer. So I went ahead and off camera, I went to the shop here in Mushroom Kingdom and bought some stuff. So we're just going to equip it right now. And this guy in here has another hunt for us. We read his post last time when we were in Bowser's Keep. He made the mistake of finding a cute dog outside and letting him in, and as it turns out, the dog was a monster. I think we've all been there. Now, there are some areas of the game like this, like the Mushroom Kingdom, where I didn't really do that much to change the layout of it, but I tried to add stuff like this, like hunts and additional NPCs and stuff, to still make it feel like it's a new area. You know, you're familiar with it from playing the original game, but at the same time it's different, there's new stuff to do there. Now that animation is supposed to be Red throwing the hammer just a little ways into the air and then kind of catching it mid-spin, but looks a little wonky. That's okay. There we go. Finally got our first healing technique. One thing that you'll see in this conversation here, and in a few other conversations throughout the game, you'll see this idea of the Koopa Bros trying to recruit different organizations to help them find King Bowser and fight the forces of evil and whatnot. And you'll see that most of them will say, yeah, alright, we'll help you out, we'll send a few people your way. So originally, I had this idea where you'd go across the Mushroom Kingdom, helping out these different groups of people, and then at the end of the game, there'd be kind of this final showdown where, you know, Shadow would have his army of bad guys, and you'd get your army of all of these different groups that you've met throughout the game to come help you, and there would be this big clash. But as it turns out, the Super Nintendo is pretty limited in how many characters it can show on screen at once, so that never really panned out. I couldn't get it to work the way that I wanted to. So that part just never happened. Instead of Shadow having this army that you'd fight against, the plot of the game was more like he's this guy that operates in the shadows. You don't really see him very much. Oh, we need to talk to somebody before we leave. But you don't really see him very much. He has a few minions who are out and about trying to do stuff for him, but even then, you don't see those guys very often. Just made more sense to have him kind of be this guy operating behind the scenes rather than, you know, I've got this big army and I'm operating out in the open. But at the very end of the game, the very last scene after you beat the game, there's a scene that kind of pokes fun at that, where some of the people that you've helped throughout the game actually do show up and say, "Alright, we're ready to go, let's fight," only for Red to come out and say, we already won. You guys are a little late." Ah, the woods. This was a fun level to make. It's supposed to be very maze-like. So as I was making this and coming up with all of these convoluted routes and, you know, the underground part of it and everything, it got very confusing very quick, to the point where I had mixed up some of the entrances and exits to different places. You might notice that there will be some entrances that you take that don't go back to the same room you just came from, stuff like that. And I decided to take the Bethesda route on that and turn it from a bug into a feature. So that's intentional at this point, that some places won't go, if you go back through an exit that you went through, it won't take you back to the same room you were just in all of the time. But I did make sure that there was always a way out. So no matter how lost you get in here, there's always a way back to the beginning or to the end. Going along with this idea of having a maze-like area, I also wanted to make sure there was stuff to actually do in here. Like, you help this guy, you get some items, including a frog coin. I didn't want the player to feel like, okay, there's one thing to do here, the goal is to get to the end, and everything in between is just, you know, annoying. I got lost and, you know, there's nothing to do while I'm getting lost. So I made sure there were some extra things to do on the side here. Alright, there's another hidden frog coin right around the corner here. You can barely see. Okay. Now this is the room that has the secret trampoline in it. Some of you may be looking for this one. Alright, there's another hidden frog coin right around the corner here. You can barely see. Okay. Now this is the room that has the secret trampoline in it. Some of you may be looking for this one. Alright, there's another hidden frog coin right around the corner here. You can barely see. Okay. Now this is the room that has the secret trampoline in it. Some of you may be looking for this one. There are 5 of those star flowers hidden throughout the game. They lead to a secret level that we'll talk about later. This area up here leads to the sewers. The sewer entrance is in Bowser's Castle. What I wanted to have, for some of these harder to reach areas that might take you a minute to get to, like this one, I wanted there to be another way to get to it, so that you didn't have to walk all the way through the woods or whatever the level might be just to get back to the place you were at before, in case there was something you wanted to do, something you forgot, or some of the side quests and hunts you have to do a little backtracking to get, that sort of thing. Touching the valuable artifacts and something bad happens. That's a homage to Indiana Jones there. And fun fact, did you know that Colorado, the Koopa from Paper Mario, is supposed to be an homage to Indiana Jones as well, which is why he's named after a US state. Guess he's a more incompetent Indiana Jones? But you may have noticed this level is called Goomstar Temple. It's named after a famous translation error from Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. So you get a letter, an email, from the Koopa that you help with the hide-and-seek quest, and he tells you that he's going to go hide in a place called Goomstar Temple. Now it turns out that's a mistranslation. It was supposed to be the Crystal Palace, the last level from Paper Mario, but for whatever reason they came up with Goomstar Temple. So I decided to turn it into an actual level. Hence all the Goombas. And there's our third party member here. And here's where we finally meet one of the bad guy's minions and find out what it is we're trying to collect throughout this game. The crystals. I mentioned in the last video that Black is supposed to be the glass cannon of the team. He has high attack but low defenses. But here at the start, when you very first get him, he doesn't have any weapons or equipment or anything. So, unfortunately, he has both low attack and low defenses upon first getting him. So he's not going to be much help in this fight, but we'll try to keep him alive as long as we can. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last video, but Red's Shell Toss ability has the same power that Mario's Jump has in the original game, where every 2 times that you use it, its power increases by 1 damage, up to a maximum of, I think it's 127 damage. So, just something to keep in mind. As you're going through the game, if you want Red to stay useful as much as possible, just keep using Shell Toss as his main kind of attack. How much HP does this guy have? 159, huh? Alright. Well, never leave home without an emergency bomb. I think if I really tried, I could have beat him without that, but it's alright. This is something that happens a lot, where after you beat a major boss or accomplish something, you end up back in Bowser's Keep to talk to Kamek. In addition to all these interim scenes that you'll see, one thing I wanted to try to do was have Kamek be kind of the Merlon of this game. If you remember in Paper Mario, Merlon, you could pay him a few coins and he would tell you this is where you're supposed to be going right now, just kind of give you some direction. In case you ever get lost, forget what you're trying to do. But I couldn't really get that to work. One of the unfortunate things about the Lazy Shell program that I used to make this game is sometimes different things will crash or develop bugs that there's just no rhyme or reason behind. And one of the issues I had was with editing dialogue boxes. There came a point where maybe about a third of them are glitched, and I just can't use them at all. I can't edit them or do anything at all with them. Oh yeah, we forgot to do the winter plant hunt for this lady. So we gotta go back to the woods and look for it. But yeah, editing dialogues, it just became impossible, basically. So trying to add a series of dialogues for different points of the game, what you're supposed to be doing, it just wasn't possible. I just couldn't do it. Alright, let's try to find this plant. I remember which room he's in, but getting there is a different question. Oops. I don't think that's it. I'll figure it out. Here we go. Okay, for that. Persistent gecko. Earlier times, not a particularly useful item, but, you know, we're still early on in the game, so we can't get anything too game-breaking. Let's check in here and see if there's any other hunts to do. Done up through number 4. First things first, though, let's go to the next area and get some better equipment. You guys remember this guy? It's Koopa. He was in the first Paper Mario. It's the first Koopa that you see in Koopa Village. He was part of the letter chain side quest. Just a fun little Easter egg for you. This one is locked. This is actually Koopa's house, and this becomes unlocked once you get him on your team. We'll talk more about that once we can actually get in the house. See what there is to do in there. You may be wondering, why is there no weapon for Black in here? So, fun thing about editing his character is I wrote over his character, or Gino was the character I overwrote to add him, and Gino's weapons are very particular. Now, most character weapons, you can change who they belong to, change the character's animation that shows up when the weapon is used, that sort of thing. But for whatever reason, with Gino's weapons, most of them are very difficult to do that with. They just sometimes don't work, with no real rhyme or reason behind it. So while everyone else has some of their weapons switched around a little bit, he's kind of stuck with what he's got. So there's not many weapons for him throughout the game. But he does get some unique accessories. Now you'll notice that the Koopa Village Elder is just a generic Koopa. My greatest failure, my greatest disappointment in making this game, is that I wasn't able to add Koopa Koot as a character. I told you guys, I'm not a spriter, I'm not an artist, I didn't know how to add him. Alright, so talking to the Elder opened up the fields level, but before we do that, we're gonna go do one of the hunts. So remember what I said about the sewers having shortcuts to different places that are hard to reach? Well, we're about to go use one. We're gonna take that shortcut to Goomstar Temple to go fight the Goombino hunt. These Goombas, don't let them deceive you. They're very strong. They'll probably kill me if I fight any of them. Speaking of which... we'll get that chest later. It's guarded by a boss. That statue fades away because we beat the boss of Goomstar Temple. So I don't think you could just waltz in here and take a shortcut here anytime you want during the game. I guess we might as well save while we're here. Got a lot of HP on this little guy. Alright. Error 404. Be nothing. Syrup. Oh, do this the old-fashioned way. He's almost dead. Just in case we get ambushed by a feral Goomba on the way back. Always time for an buy some stuff for next time. Buy some stuff that one thing, apparently. We're broke. Oh well. We'll figure it out. Some battle items be helpful. Alright, we'll call it there for now. Thanks for watching, we'll see you guys next time.